There are moments in science when a discovery does not feel like an ending. It feels like a door opening. A telescope sees a little farther. A mission sends back a cleaner image. A signal appears where the old map was quiet. And suddenly, space does not feel empty. It feels unfinished. But the most interesting part is not one headline, one image, or one mission. It is the pattern. Across observatories, agencies, private companies, classrooms, and public imagination, space discovery is beginning to feel less like isolated news, and more like the early shape of a new race. Not only a race to launch higher. Not only a race to plant flags. A race to understand what has been above us the entire time. And if these signals are pointing in the same direction, then the next question is simple: what are we really racing toward? The reason this opening matters is simple: space stories work best when they begin with a feeling of scale, but scale alone is not enough. A large planet, a bright nebula, or a launch tower can catch attention for a second. What holds attention is the sense that those images are connected to something larger than the frame. That is the emotional engine of this story. The audience should not feel like they are being told that one secret discovery has changed everything. They should feel that many separate signals are beginning to rhyme with each other. Telescopes. Launch systems. Public missions. Private ambition. Science communication. Education. A culture that keeps looking upward even when life on Earth is loud. So the opening should move like a mystery, but not like clickbait. It should invite the viewer into a question that feels big enough to stay with: if every generation has its own version of the space race, what makes this one different? The answer cannot be delivered too early. The first minute must protect the open loop. It should create the feeling that the old map of space exploration is being unfolded on a table, and that new markings are appearing on it one by one. The viewer should feel that the film is not chasing one shocking headline. It is following a pattern. And patterns, when they are real, are more powerful than hype. For most of modern history, space discovery reached the public as a single spectacular moment. A rocket rising into the sky. A footprint on another world. A grainy picture from a machine millions of miles away. Today, the rhythm feels different. Discovery is not just one event. It is a stream: images, simulations, telescope data, mission updates, documentaries, public lectures, classroom programs, and a growing sense that the story of space is no longer locked away inside laboratories. That does not mean every headline is equally important. It does not mean every claim is proven. In fact, the opposite is true: the louder the discovery cycle becomes, the more careful the story has to be. But the verified signals are enough to say this: public attention around space, astronomy, exploration, and discovery-focused storytelling is alive. It is active. And it is moving. The deeper pattern is not that we suddenly know everything. The pattern is that we are building more ways to ask better questions. In the past, the public story of space was often organized around rare moments. A launch would happen. A mission would succeed or fail. A photograph would be released. For a few days, the world would look up, and then the story would fade back into the background. Now, discovery behaves more like a current. It flows through news feeds, science channels, public lectures, observatory updates, mission animations, classrooms, documentaries, and short-form clips. Some of that current is careful and educational. Some of it is exaggerated. Some of it is just noise. But the existence of the current is the important signal. This creates a new responsibility for documentary storytelling. The goal is not to make every item sound historic. The goal is to help viewers separate excitement from evidence. To show that wonder does not have to be careless. To show that curiosity can be intense without becoming dishonest. That is why the documentary should keep returning to one idea: the age of discovery is not only about what scientists find. It is also about how the public learns to understand what was found. A better telescope can expand the scientific map. But a better story can expand the public imagination. And when both happen at the same time, space begins to feel close again. So what changes when discovery becomes a rhythm instead of a rare event? When people hear the word space race, they usually imagine rockets, engines, launch towers, nations competing to reach a destination first. But the new race is harder to see, because it is not only happening on launch pads. It is happening inside telescopes, inside mission control rooms, inside data centers, inside classrooms, inside documentaries, and inside the imagination of millions of people watching from Earth. The old race was measured by distance. Who could reach orbit? Who could reach the moon? Who could go farther than anyone had gone before? The new race may be measured by understanding. Who can see clearer? Who can interpret faster? Who can connect scattered signals into a story that changes what humanity believes is possible? That is why space discovery feels different now. A rocket can take us somewhere. But a discovery can change where we think somewhere begins. The phrase space race carries historical weight. It suggests competition, speed, national ambition, and technological pride. But if we use that phrase today without updating it, we miss the more interesting transformation. A modern space race is not only a race between flags. It is a race between methods of seeing. Some of the most important progress may not look cinematic at first. It may look like an instrument becoming more sensitive, a dataset becoming more complete, a simulation becoming more accurate, or a mission team finding a way to ask a question that previous generations could not even frame. This is why rockets are only one part of the picture. Rockets move hardware. Telescopes move perception. Data moves understanding. Education moves public memory. Storytelling moves attention. Together, they create the environment where discovery can matter beyond the scientific community. The documentary should visualize this as an ecosystem, not a single contest. Launch pads on one side. Observatories on another. Mission control rooms. Research teams. Students watching a live stream. Viewers seeing a distant world for the first time. The old race was about reaching a destination. The new race may be about building the ability to recognize what a destination means once we arrive. If rockets are only one part of the race, what else is actually competing for the future? The most powerful discoveries do not simply answer questions. They change the questions. A new observation can make an old explanation feel incomplete. A sharper image can turn a distant blur into a place with texture, structure, and history. A single confirmed detail can force scientists to redraw the boundary between what is known and what is still waiting. This is where the story becomes dangerous if it is told carelessly. It is easy to turn uncertainty into hype. It is easy to make every unknown sound like proof. But real science does not work that way. Real discovery is slower, stranger, and more interesting. It asks us to hold two ideas at the same time, that the universe is revealing more than before, and that the most honest answer is often, not yet. That tension is the heart of the new space race. Not certainty. Curiosity. Not spectacle. Patience. Not a final answer. A better question. This section should slow down slightly, because it carries the intellectual heart of the film. Discovery is often sold to the public as a moment of certainty. Something was found, therefore everything has changed. But real discovery is usually more subtle. A discovery can be powerful because it complicates the picture. It can make a familiar theory look incomplete. It can reveal that a place once treated as simple is actually layered, active, strange, or historically rich. It can turn a distant point of light into a world with questions attached to it. That is why uncertainty should not be treated as a weakness. In science, uncertainty can be the doorway to better work. It tells researchers where the map is thin. It tells the public that the universe is not a finished textbook. It is an unfolding investigation. The visuals here should feel textured and patient. A grainy image resolving into detail. A scientist comparing frames. A digital map gaining new lines. A celestial object surrounded by annotations that do not shout answers, but reveal questions. The emotional turn is this: the deepest discoveries are not the ones that let us say we are finished. They are the ones that make it impossible to keep asking the old questions in the old way. What if the most important discoveries matter not because they end a mystery, but because they make the mystery sharper? The next decade could become one of the most important periods in the public story of space, not because every prediction will come true, but because the tools for discovery are changing the scale of the conversation. Better telescopes can make distant worlds feel less abstract. Better missions can make exploration feel closer. Better visual storytelling can help ordinary viewers understand why a small scientific detail may matter. But the future has to be handled carefully. A possibility is not a fact. A theory is not proof. A mission concept is not the same thing as a completed discovery. That is why the strongest version of this story is not built on exaggeration. It is built on grounded wonder. If the coming years reveal more than we expect, the most important change may not be one single discovery. It may be the slow realization that humanity is still at the beginning of learning how to look. Future-facing sections are dangerous if they become too confident. A documentary can easily slide from possibility into prediction, and from prediction into fantasy. This system should not do that. It should make the future feel open, not predetermined. The next decade matters because the tools of exploration are becoming more visible to the public. Better instruments, better visualizations, better mission communication, and better educational storytelling can make space feel less like a distant abstraction and more like an active frontier. But the language must stay honest. The film should say could, may, might, and if. Not because the story is weak, but because the discipline of uncertainty makes the story stronger. Viewers can feel the difference between grounded wonder and manufactured hype. This is where the narration should connect the audience personally to the topic. Most people will never enter a mission control room. Most will never work inside an observatory. But almost everyone understands the feeling of standing under a dark sky and wondering what is hidden inside it. If the next decade gives humanity sharper tools, the emotional question becomes bigger than technology. It becomes a question of readiness. Are we ready to understand what better seeing might reveal? So what are we really racing toward? Maybe not only a planet. Not only a telescope image. Not only another launch. Maybe the race is toward a deeper kind of attention, the ability to look at the universe without reducing it to hype, fear, or easy answers. Space has always made humanity feel small. But discovery does something different. It makes that smallness meaningful. It reminds us that being tiny in a vast universe is not a weakness. It is the reason the search matters. The new space race is not only about who gets there first. It is about who learns to understand what is there with enough patience, honesty, and imagination to deserve the view. And perhaps that is why every new discovery feels heavier now. Not because it ends the mystery, but because it proves the mystery is still alive. The ending should not behave like a final answer. It should feel like a widening silence. The viewer has traveled through signals, patterns, caution, discovery, and future possibility. Now the film needs to land without pretending the mystery is solved. A strong ending for this topic does not say, "We know what is coming." It says, "We are learning how to look." That difference is the soul of the documentary. The final images should become simpler and more human. Less data, more scale. Less speed, more stillness. Earth from far away. A quiet observatory. A person facing the sky. A final sense that the universe is not smaller because we study it. It becomes larger because every answer reveals a better question. This gives the audience a reason to remember the film after it ends. Not because it shouted. Not because it promised a secret. But because it treated wonder as something serious. The last emotional note should be humility. Humanity is not at the center of the universe. But humanity may be one of the few things inside it that can look outward and ask what it means to be here.